Okay, we are mostly done here, but we have left a few buttons untouched so far. These buttons are practically management tools, meaning that it doesn't really do much for functionality of JPM. I mean, if you have listened so far, you will be able to use JPM without a sweat. But these buttons are here to help us use JPM more efficiently. I mean, posing is a long game. You can be poring over the same set of poses again and again for a really long time. Of course, even without it, so far it works and it's looking great. But when you spend so much time doing it, efficiency is a good thing to have. So here is the buttons we haven't touched. Move row. These two buttons with arrow up and downside on them are the most important management tools for me. We can find them both in the File Manager and Bone Manager panel. So, what does it do? Well, like their name suggests, they move the row we select up and down. For the File Manager panel, their most common use is when we would like to rearrange this list of poses. You see, especially when we are importing poses, and depending on how you name your poses, it may kind of mess up the order of the poses. And as you may have noticed that the order of the list on the File Manager panel reflects that is of the Poses panel. So with this Move Row buttons, we can put them back in order as we would like them to be. For the Bone Manager panel, their most common use is when we would like to rearrange the registered bones in the different order than the default setting. Remember that when we register the bones with this register button, it follows the rig's bone hierarchy. Well, sometimes the default order of a particular rig is not the ones we like. So, with these Move Row buttons, we can put them back in order as we would like them to be. Next, we've got the Show Path button. By clicking it, we can see where each post data is coming from. This may seem small right now, but when we're working on a really long project where we have created and imported many poses from different folders, we will most likely forget where each post is coming from. And this tool is here just for that. The next button is Visibility, which is the I button next to the poses in File Manager panel. It is another important thing to have when we're working on a really long project. Now, I've got 10 full body poses and another 5 hand poses right here. But right now, let's say that I don't really need all of them. I just want to have 5 full body poses and 2 hand poses in my pose panel right now. Sure, the most straightforward way of doing it is that we can remove the remaining 5 full body poses and 3 hand poses from the File Manager. It works and it's great, at least for now. Because later, let's say that I want to use all those poses I have removed. Because I've removed them, I will have to import them all over again. Though we can actually do that, but it's a very wasteful approach. So instead of doing that, by unchecking the visibility icon next to the poses we want to remove, we can now just hide them instead. Now, if we go to the pose panel, they're gone. But if we need them again later, we can just check the visibility icon again. Now, if we go to the pose panel, the poses are back. The next one is Vector Properties Visibility, which is this button with 3 arrows on it. You see, each row has 2 things in it: the bone name and its bone transform property. There are many times where we want to see them both, but there are also many times where we don't. By unchecking the button, we can hide all the bone transform property and only see the bone names, which is handy in cases where we don't want too much of a clutter in our bone manager panel. So, this is something we would normally get when we are using the universal version, where we use poses from different rigs. As you probably have noticed it by now, that in the rain rig, I've got all these empty rows, or nulls. The reason for this is because there are bones which exist in the original rig, in my case it's the Athena rig, but don't exist in the rain rig. Of course, we can keep it that way and it's not gonna do any harm. But in case we want to make it look cleaner while we're working on it, that's when we can use this button right here, Sanitize. It basically deletes all the empty and also duplicated rows. For the duplicated rows, it can happen both in the basic and the universal. And the case is when we accidentally register a duplicated bone. For example, we've got a root bone at the top, but let's add another root bone at the bottom. By clicking the Sanitize button, it then gets removed along with the empty rows. Okay, I guess that's it for the basic version of JPM. On the next part, we're going to talk about the universal version.